Hello everyone, this hour on Verbling, the next in my Hot Topic series. This hot topic on Halloween is all the spooks fit to print. That's the motto of the New York Times, all the news fit to print, but today it's going to be all the spooks fit to print. And what we're going to do is read some otherworldly excerpts from the news haunting the New York Times from the 1860s up to today. In the 1860s, you had news, weather, and ghosts in your morning paper. Well, that's a little bit about the class. Here's a bit about me. I'm John Eric, your Verbling teacher for this hour. I'm an American teacher from New York, hanging out in Lisbon, Portugal to bring you this class. Here are 3 quick rules to help you participate. Don't forget to turn off, tune in, and open up. That means turn off your microphone when you're not speaking so we can keep the classroom quiet. Tune in to the new words you're learning when you are speaking and use them actively as you can. Let me just mute you, Paolo, because I'm getting feedback from your side. Oh, Paolo disappeared. Use them actively so that I can correct you and give you feedback. Finally, open up to your classmates. Relax and have fun. We're all here to learn, and this is a safe and respectful place to practice your English. What is going on with Paulo? You're popping in and out. That is a little bit about the class. And this is the material. If you want to click. Paulo, what is going on? I don't know what's going on. So, if you click that link, you will open this. You'll see the graphic on the first page, so you know you're in the right place. All right. Welcome back, Shadow and Daniel. Familiar faces. How are you?
Happy Halloween.
Happy, I don't know what it is in Spain. Happy day before Saints' Day.
All of Saints.
Happy Teacher's Day. You said the new teachers today.
Yeah, hoy es teacher today.
Happy Teacher Day off day in Spain.
I wish I were.
And happy Shadow Day in Saudi Arabia.
Hello, teacher.
You have a very Halloween name, Shadow. Sounds very spooky, like shadows on the street.
It's Shadow, it's not Shadow.
It's not Shadow? You told me it was Shadow.
It's Shadow for short, but my name is Shadin.
Shadin.
Yeah.
Who knew?
Okay.
Shadin. I didn't know. Now I'm going to call you Shadin. Who else do we have here? Oh, Araceli. Long time no see. Hello, Araceli. Oh, I don't hear you, Araceli. Maybe your microphone is not turned on. We'll come back to you in just a minute. And N. Is that really your name, N? Just the letter N?
Hello. No, this just a nickname. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. What do we call you? Do we call you N?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Where are you from, N?
I'm from Bahrain.
From Bahrain. I think you are the first person from Bahrain ever in this class. I think you're the first.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got a lot of people having... Is anyone else having trouble joining? Because this Paulo seems to be coming and going. Did everyone else have trouble getting in? Let's see. Carmen is back. Hello, Carmen. Nice to see you too.
Good morning to everybody in the room.
And Yuki as well. Hi, Yuki.
Hi there.
Oh, we got a full house. Look at this. We got a full house. Hello. And Ruslan. Is that the Ruslan I used to see in my class all the time?
Or is I'm Ruslan.
Are you a new Ruslan or are you the old Ruslan? Because we used to have a Ruslan who came all the time, but maybe you're new. Is this your first time?
Yes, it's my first time in Rebelin.
Okay, very good. And where are you from, Ruslan?
I am from Ukraine.
From Ukraine. All right, very good. Um, and finally, our Araceli and Igor. Hello, Igor, you there? Just checking if everyone is working. Hello, Igor. Oh, just some people are having trouble getting in. I don't know what's going on today. Araceli, is your microphone working now?
Yes, yes, I'm here. I just popped out too. I don't know if there is some trouble with the Hangout or with my connection. I don't know.
I don't know. I think there's some people are having troubles. I don't know. All right,
Halloween
let's go.
theme, baby.
It's haunted. The Hangout is haunted. Ooh.
Baby.
All right. All the spooks fit to print. If you've ever read the New York Times, you'll notice on the top, I think it's the top right side of the page, it says all the news fit to print. 100 years ago, ghosts and spooks and goblins were also part of the news. I'm going to give you an example right now. If you go to the second page, no, the third page, no, the fourth page says, let's read through these eerie articles from a century ago. I want you to listen to one. I'm going to read number 4, Two Spectral Lodgers. If you want to read it, you can download it if you want by clicking on the link and open it, but you don't have to because I'm going to share my screen with you. It's a long article, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, just 2 parts. You can listen and follow along and tell me, do you think news like this would be reported in a big newspaper like the New York Times today? Two spectral lodgers, ghosts in a 14th Street boarding house. Boarders frightened away, boarders frightened away and servants in terror. What persons who have seen the phantom say. So that's the headline. And this is from 1874, I think it was. It's 1881. So over 100 years ago. 2 alleged ghosts have been engaged in the unholy business of making day and night alike hideous for some time past in the boarding house at number 131 West 14th Street. The building is situated just west of 22nd Regiment Army, which it adjoins, and is of brick, 4 stories and a basement. During the past year, the house has been occupied by Mrs. Carr, a widow lady, as a boarding house. Oh, the syntax was different 100 years ago. It's a little confusing. It was occupied by Mrs. Mary Carr, a widow lady, as a boarding house, and at times it has been completely filled, as many as 30 persons lodging beneath its roof. The ghosts, however, have played sad havoc with Mrs. Carr's business of late, and her boarders have been gradually leaving her as the fact dawned on their minds that the house was haunted. Ooh, ha 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 ha. That was the New York Times from 100 years ago. Tell me something. Do you think you'd read a story like that today?
Yes, but with real person. Gossip.
With real people. How do you think the story would be reported today, Daniel?
Always we read gossip in everywhere, in all news. It's like a ghost in the past.
Instead of ghosts, what is it?
The gossip in news.
Oh, gossip. Got it.
Gossip. Sorry.
Got it. So instead of ghosts, we have gossip.
You can see in the news weather, gossip, and economic news, bad economic news.
There you go. I'm going to read one more part, just a little part down. This is a huge article. I'm just going to read one more part about the actual appearance of ghosts. It's pretty funny. Let me just a second. It's about the police coming to the house. Here we go. So this is what happens. She calls the police, Mrs. Carr, and this is what happens. Remember, this is not a fictional story. This is from a newspaper, from the front page of the newspaper, actually. On Saturday last, Mrs. Carr told Officer Klinge of the 29th Precinct, whose beat passes her house, of the trouble in which she was involved, and he made a thorough examination of the premises. He says that when the front door is locked, there is absolutely no way for a man to get into the house except by committing burglary. On Tuesday night, the male ghost played his trump card and created such an excitement that the facts of the mystery could no longer be kept from all the inmates of the house. So that's why she's getting upset, because her boarders are all leaving. On that night, the chambermaid retired at 10 o'clock. She sleeps in a room on the top floor of the house. Just before midnight, she awoke experiencing a peculiarly cold feeling. A feeble light from the hall stole into her room so that she could just distinguish large objects, but nothing more. As she awoke, she saw a man standing a few feet from her bed, with his back toward her. She knew nothing about the ghost at the time, and her heart stood still. The man turned and faced her. He was tall and slightly stooping, with side whiskers and a mustache. Ooh, how creepy! He's got facial hair. And large black eyes. It was the male ghost of number 131 West 14th Street. His hand was raised and rested on his breast. The girl gave a scream and fainted. When she recovered, the figure was still there. It had moved to the corner and stood there eyeing her. She fainted again and recovered again. The ghost was now at the foot of her bed, but he seemed to have diminished in height about one half. He gradually grew smaller and smaller until finally he disappeared altogether. The girl jumped from the bed, ran screaming down the stairs to her mistress, to whom she told her story. And that is the story of one of the two spectral lodgers. So, just out of curiosity, this is written 100 years ago. Which words seem a little old-fashioned to you, class? Anything seem like it would be like it's different than we might say it today? Any differences you notice?
Mistress?
Mistress?
It's old-fashioned?
It looks like a real that old ghost looks like a real person.
That's one interesting thing. It does seem like it's not floating around.
Not transparent, not fairy.
So they grew smaller.
Nowadays ghost.
So there's some differences. Seems to be real. That's interesting. And what were you saying?
Now we think of ghost as a wispy and translucent, but what is described in this old article is quite different from nowadays ghost. It is very real.
So the description is different than we might have it today. And someone else, I think it was Araceli, was talking too. What was that? Or
That the ghost is not transparent. It looks like a real flesh person, but then it starts growing smaller and smaller until it disappears. That doesn't seem too realistic.
it doesn't seem realistic. So I guess that's the giveaway that it was a ghost, right?
Probably. I think it was a dream of the girl, but the newspaper describes it as real facts. But she faints and fades. Maybe she was just dreaming, and that's her nightmare.
So let's talk about that for a second. The newspaper describes it as real. So what's the difference between the way it's reported there and the way we would talk about it now? Because this was taken from a real New York Times reporter. So what are some differences, you think? How would we report it today? What do you think, Carmen? If this was a modern story, what would be different?
Well, Well, what I think is not can play a lot of tricks on people, so that's why. So if you tell me if we can compare it to nowadays, I'd say that would be a story for Hollywood, for Halloween. You know, because back then people were, I'd say, more spiritual. I mean, they would think about, they were very religious, so they would consider ghosts as a possible real thing. But nowadays they have no way to be of any interest to people. That's what I think.
Absolutely. Igor, what do you think?
Sorry, you lost me there. I don't know what you're talking about.
What did you hear the? Were you listening when I read the excerpt from the article? Or no?
Kind of.
Kind of. All right, we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you in a second. And I would just hear some people I haven't heard from before. Ruslan, you out there?
Yes, I'm there.
Hey. So Carmen is saying that people were more spiritual then. So the story is written in a very factual way. What other differences might there be in a modern story about this kind of event, besides writing it as if it's fact? Any other differences come to mind? Maybe in the language that's used too? What do you think?
I don't understand your questions at all, maybe.
My question is, how would this story be reported today? If you were reading the New York Times today, would it be written in a different way than what you heard?
I don't know. Maybe it would be different.
In what way? What do you think?
I can't imagine what difference between now and that old story.
Okay, but different. All right. Let me ask Sylvia, what words do you think we need as English language learners? What words do you think we need to talk about this topic, Halloween, ghosts, things like that? What are some keywords? I want to brainstorm a little bit with the class. Then we're going to read a fascinating short article which has got some good vocabulary, and then maybe we can come back and look at some of these 100-year-old ghost stories. So give us a few words. What do you think?
Ghost and hidden was
Are these words from what I was reading, or words that
no, from the reading? I was reading.
From the reading.
With ghost,
Sure.
The ghost.
So we've got ghosts, we've got hidden, and you don't have to worry just about the reading, just in general.
That's because here the sentences are very, very long.
Yeah, it's old writing. Let's get some other opinions here. Shadow, she's got ghost and hidden. What other words, what are some other key words for Halloween and for ghost stories in general? What are some other key words we could add?
How about horror?
Horror?
Uh-huh.
Excellent. Very good. We can get a few others. Daniel, I know that you can add one more. I know you can.
Banking.
Banking?
Yes.
Banking?
Halloween?
Like
banking?
Pumpkin. Is it pumpkin?
Oh my God! I couldn't understand. I couldn't hear you. Pumpkin. That's why Carmen is here. Pumpkin. You know what? That's not how you spell pumpkin, is it? There it is. Okay, excellent. We've got some good words started. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to try to find a synonym of each of the words that you see on screen. So, pumpkin can also be what? Do you know what we call it when we carve a face into a pumpkin?
A cabbage.
Cabbage?
No.
Cabbage?
Jack-o'-lantern.
Say again? I heard it.
Jack-o'-lantern is that
Yeah.
character like a
That's
pancake?
right. Jack-o'-lantern. When it's got the face in it, it's a jack-o'-lantern. That is right. Don't ask me where that comes from. I'd have to Google for it. I don't know. When you carve a face into a pumpkin, it becomes a jack-o'-lantern. All right. We have the word horror. Who can give me a synonym of the word horror?
Terrified.
Yeah, terrified. Well, terror and horror, and terrified is the feeling. Terrified. Got it. Terrified. Okay, good. Let's go with the word ghost. Oh, there's so many things we could say with the word ghost.
Spook.
Spook. Spook?
Yes.
What's the... Wait, 1 second. Carmen, spook is the noun. What's the adjective?
Spooky.
Spooky. Yuki, can you give me another one for ghost?
Ghost, another name, yeah?
Yeah.
Spook, ghost, spirit.
Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Phantom.
Spirit, phantom. Good, Daniel. Oops, not sprite. Spirit.
Spectre, maybe.
Spectre. Very difficult to write. There we go. Spectre. Phantom. Because that's how you say it in Spanish, isn't it? But you say phantom too. You say phantasma, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, hidden. This one's a little more tricky.
Concealed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is,
we need a word. We need a word that's. Look, we got spooky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another word for spooky.
Creeping, for instance.
Creepy. Eerie. These are all synonyms. Oops, I can't write on the screen. Eerie. Another word for hidden. It's not a synonym, but it's a related word. Haunted. Because the ghosts are not going to be out in the open. They just appear at certain times. Okay, are we missing any good words? Oh, we got one here. I'm going to give you one. Carmen, you said spiritual, right? But spiritual usually means like religious. And here we're not talking about classical religion, right? Christianity or Islam. We're talking about marginal religion. Unusual beliefs. What do we call those? Does anyone know?
In Spain, it's called paganism or something like that.
Paganism. Well, yeah, not exactly here, because paganism is more like, just going to the Stonehenge and performing a ritual.
And mystical?
Mystical, good word. Something, a mystical experience. That could still be very religious, though.
Superstitious, maybe.
Good. Superstitious, good word. And how about occult? Cult. The occult is sort of that marginal ghost, specter kind of thing. And some other words that you might not know. Ether.
Surgery?
What is it?
Surgery?
Daniel.
You lost me on that one. Surgery?
Surgery.
You got it right.
I mean, the thing with witches and all that is called surgery.
Sorcery.
Oh, sorcery. Okay. Yeah.
That's it. Sorcery. That's it.
Surgery, okay. Sorcery.
Yeah, like what witches do. That's it. I thought it was surgery too. I was like, wait a second. They do surgery all the time. Ether. Do you know what ether is? Ether.
Ethereal, I mean, transparent.
Ether? Transparent?
Nothing anything to do with ethereal? No.
Oh, ethereal, right. That's exactly right. Ethereal.
Very light.
Ethereal. For us, the word ethereal would have to do with something that is not material.
Mm-hmm.
Ether was the belief in the 19th century and earlier of this reality that you can't see, that you can't touch. It came from the ether. It was like the material before we understood physics. It was this fictional, we didn't know it was fictional, but this idea of trying to explain the non-material world. It came out of the ether, the part that we can't see. So ethereal is anything mysterious coming from the ether. Okay, this is some pretty good vocabulary. We're going to use this vocabulary at the end of class to have a little discussion. First, I've got an interesting article for you, and it's really short, but it's got some good vocabulary. So let's see, this is about 2 pages. I think this will help us focus our discussion. We'll read through it, and on the last page I've got 5 questions to help you think about ghosts, the media, and culture. All those things put together. Carmen, you're our traditional story starter. Can you take paragraph 1 for us?
Okay. Can you make the text a little bit larger because I cannot see properly?
I'll
Or I can
try.
just also no. Okay. No, don't worry about it because I can just see because I downloaded this document, so I can just.
Okay.
Don't worry. Okay, with me, that's easier for you. Right. In 1628, a young woman in the town of Dole, in what is now eastern France, believed that she was visited by a ghost. The young woman was ill in bed. At first she saw an ordinary woman who had tidied up and taken care of her. She began to think that her nurse might be a spirit after the kind woman appeared at her side without opening the locked door. The spirit, she believed, was the ghost of her aunt, who came to help her out as a form of penance to lessen the aunt's time in purgatory.
Yeah, penance. You know what that is? Penance?
Yeah, penitencia. Well, I don't know in English.
Okay, well,
But
purgatory.
when you do something wrong and you
Right.
start to I don't know how to explain it. I don't know.
Pay for it,
Well,
jail.
pay for it.
Yeah.
Pay for it, exactly. So penance is Araceli is saying punishment, right? So the point is, you're in purgatory, right? Purgatory is the jail in the spiritual world. So if you're paying penance, if you're doing penance, you're paying for your time in jail. She was trying to get out of spiritual jail, paying penance. And what was the penance she was paying? What was she doing to get out of purgatory? According to the logic of this young woman, is that clear what she was doing?
Because she has sinned, so in a way to redeem herself from sin, she has to do
Exactly.
things right. No.
Exactly. So by posing as a nurse, by coming in, appearing as this nurse, she was, as you said, redeeming herself, and therefore her jail time in purgatory would be reduced. That's the idea. Penance is a good word. Daniel, keep going. Paragraph 2.
We think of ghosts as wispy and translucent. A vaporous woman, perhaps, who floats down the stairs, her dress trailing in the languid air behind her.
Languid.
Languid air behind her. But in early modern Europe, ghosts were often perceived as solid persons. The Beaver discovered that they weren't when they did something that ordinary humans could not, like bypassing a locked door to enter a room.
That's bypassing. Bypassing. One word. All right. Did you see an example of this in the excerpt that I was reading to you?
By passing.
No. Just this idea, the gist of the paragraph. What's the difference between early ghosts and later ghosts, according to this paragraph? Is that clear, Daniel?
Yes.
Well, what is it?
Okay.
What is it? What's the difference?
uh, Now we see the the cause uh, translucent, and people show in the past
Uh-huh.
as a solid person.
Exactly. So, did we see this in the New York Times article from 1881? That's what that's what you were saying, right?
Yes. Uh, yes. Uh, yes. Before ghost was described as wispy and translucent,
What
but
does that mean,
now
wispy? Do you know that word? What does that mean, wispy?
wispy means very thin,
Thin?
very tiny,
Ah.
and smoky, like a smoke,
Ah,
like a
okay.
mist. Very, very tiny, tiny.
Ah, okay, I got you. Like a wisp of smoke. Something that is hard to see at first, maybe. Like a
Yes,
little bit of,
ghost.
yeah, okay. Got it.
Before ghost is regarded as people look the ghost like a smoke, cloud, mist.
Later on, but
Yes,
earlier, they seem to just be people. And all those mystical things you read about in the Middle Ages, they just appear like flesh and blood like you and me. It's an interesting distinction that this author is going to talk about. So it's good for us to just make a quick note about that. Araceli,
sorry,
oh,
I
go ahead.
didn't understand the last sentence. I couldn't get the meaning. The viewer discovered that they want when they did something that ordinary humans could not. What does it mean?
By the way, Daniel, could you just move your mobile phone away from the computer? Because I think, yeah, you don't have to mute yourself. Just move it away because I'm hearing. Um,
So
the
could you
key to
explain the meaning of last sentence?
the key to that sentence is you discovered that they weren't. Who's they? Let's clarify who the they is.
The ghosts weren't solid persons.
Ghost? The,
Yeah.
oh,
So they only discovered that the ghosts weren't what?
yes, they want what do they want?
Araceli, they weren't what?
They weren't real people,
Yeah.
solid persons.
Yeah, they weren't real, they weren't solid.
Ah, so
So
the viewer discovered that they want to real solid persons.
exactly.
Ah, I see.
Only when they did something unusual. And in this case, the nurse seemed to just appear to the woman who was ill. She didn't hear the door open, so she said, "Oh, she must be a ghost." Otherwise, you would never know the difference. And if you look at any of those TV shows or all the movies nowadays, that's not how they're portrayed. So something has changed in the way we think about the ethereal world. Araceli, why don't you continue with the third paragraph?
By the 19th century, people had begun. Uh, sorry. Oh,
Sorry. There
I've
you go.
lost myself. Okay.
There you go. Sorry.
Yeah. By the 19th century, people had begun to think of ghosts predominantly as spectral forms, ephemeral, elusive, evanescent. When the
Evanescent.
evanescent. When the ghost of Marley appeared to Scrooge in Dickens' A Christmas Carol, 1843, and Scrooge looked his transparent body through and through. He illustrated a shift in the ways ghosts became real to people, how ghosts were seen and remembered.
Does everyone know the Christmas Carol by Dickens?
Yes.
Remember
Yes.
Scrooge?
Yeah.
Right. So even in the movies, they're always kind of portrayed, at least initially, as these transparent things. Evanescent. What does that mean? Do you know that word? Evanescent.
There is the same name of rock group.
Yeah.
Evanescent?
Evanescence,
Yes.
yes. Evanescence means it does not last long.
Exactly.
Very not
Fleeting.
long.
Fleeting, we could say.
That you can grasp it, maybe.
Also, because it's so short, it lasts a short time. It's a fleeting, like we say, a fleeting glimpse, a quick look. So an evanescent thing, like a bubble bursting in champagne or something like that. All right, so far so good. What do you think, Igor? Want to take the next one? We're at the bottom of page 5 there.
Okay. Inspectors of the Self, the cultural historian Shane McCorriston points to 2 reasons for this transmutation. The first was skepticism about the supernatural, generated by the new developments in science. The concept of hallucination emerged to explain experience like seeing an apparition. The seeing of ghosts became a psychological phenomenon. It also became a pathological one. In 1848, the British skeptic Charles Euler spoke for many when he wrote that anyone who thinks he has seen a ghost may take the vision as a symptom that his bodily health is deranged. As a result, Dr. McCarstein writes, the ghost was what?
Want to wait for it?
Can
you see it?
Again, the last.
I changed the page.
Gradually relocated from the external, objective, and theological structured world to the internal, subjective, and psychological, haunted world of personal experience.
So the key word there, I think, is hallucination. This was a new concept at the time, hallucination.
It's like anyone who saw any ghost. It's like anyone who saw any ghost, it's like they were having some kind of hallucinations.
Yeah, and prior to that, we didn't necessarily distinguish between hallucinations and something happening in the real world. So this was kind of a revolution. Psychology was just beginning, like modern psychology. Ruslan, want to take the next one for us? The other reason?
The other reason was the development of new technologies, including photography, in the early decades of the 19th century. Those who wanted to hand on to their beliefs in the supernatural, despite the apparent threat posted by science, found in the idea of the hallucination a kind of scientific evidence that the dead came back to life. By the 1860s, spirit photography presented
Good. That's it. Astonishing
images of people alongside dead relatives using double exposure and other manipulation to portray a gauzy form alongside living flesh.
You know what? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
It was a transparently that marked the dead as dead, and of course it was technology that allowed some photographers to fake the ghost.
And here, just quickly, is spirit photography. Just quickly, I'll put one on the screen for you. This was a pretty cool thing in the 19th century. See, it's a little small, isn't it? Oh, that's too small. Let me go find a better one. Hold on. There's a good one. Can you see this one?
Yeah.
Or this one? Even better. Look at that's my favorite. Sincerely yours. And there's someone's
Sound scary.
someone's
Is this Photoshop?
and that's
No,
the great thing.
it's real.
There was no Photoshop back then, but there was double exposure. Do you know what double exposure means? Oh, here's a good one too. This is a great one.
It's
a
like
little
you take two photographs and you join them together. So
Yeah, look at this. Look at this one. Look at their faces. Oh my God! Look, there's a woman wearing a sheet. Oh. So you take two photographs, you take them together in the same frame, and you've got a transparent figure. But back then, no one really knew about it. There was no Photoshop. So people really didn't. It was a huge scam at the time because, people were actually paying money for this. And a lot of very famous people were taken in. Like the guy who wrote Sherlock Holmes was a very famous believer in these tricks. There was a picture of fairies, little winged girls. And he came out in a major newspaper saying, no, this is true. The photograph proves it's true. Fairies exist. Which is a very odd thing for... it seems like that's a kind of a stretch, but whatever. It turned out 80 years later that the girls who took the picture had just cut out pieces of paper and put them in the foreground, and it was a pretty simple trick. So, there you go. Double exposure. Shadow, I want you to take the next two short ones because we've got they're both like one sentence. So, by the late 19th century and pop culture.
Okay. By the late 19th century, seances had become widely popular. Historians have argued that spiritualism and physical research become a kind of surrogate religion that demonstrated the truth of an otherworldly reality as faith in ordinary Christianity declined. Then, through the 20th century, their appeal receded. Pop culture is richly peopled with vampires, zombies, the Living Dead, the Harry Potter books, the Twilight series, the television show Grimm, the Sci-Fi Network has produced 16 paranormal reality shows since 2004. At 2013, Harry's poll found that 42% of Americans believed in ghosts, but only 24% of responded 68 and older.
So 42% believe in ghosts, but only 24% of people who are 68 and older. What does that mean to you? Does that seem scary in any way?
I often see the series of England film or series of England series, the scene of seance. People make a circle in the dark room, and they take a hand with each other.
They hold each other's hands
and try to call a spirit. I think British people like such kind of things, and even now I heard the seance. People do seance.
I don't know about today. I guess some people still do.
Still do, yes.
We can try it in the next class, maybe.
Yeah.
Let's
You-
try it in the Google Hangout. We'll see
You'd
what we
like
get.
to try
We'll
with
see
us?
if we can.
With the
Yeah,
classmate?
sure. Yeah, why not? We'll
Through
see if
internet?
we can conjure up Sergey Brin from Google. See if we can get him into the classroom. We'll try it. Not now. Next class. Next
What
class.
does it happen if really ghost appears in our class
Then he will learn
through
English.
internet?
He'll
Maybe
learn
we
lots of
can
English.
hear some kind of scare voice.
We'll find out.
No one said, but
We'll find out soon enough. Well, we've only got 2 paragraphs or so left here. Sylvia, want to take the next one? Scholars, and I've got a few questions. We're going to have a discussion in just a moment. Sylvia, are you there?
Yes.
So
Scholars sometimes talk about this supernaturalization as a kind of reincarnament of the world.
wait.
As a
Try again.
reincarnament?
Enchantment. There you go.
Re-enchantment.
Re-enchantment.
Of the world, as a growing awareness that the modern world is not stripped of the magical, as the German sociologist Max Weber and so many others once thought, but is in some ways more fascinated than ever with the idea that there is more than material reality around us. In part, I think this is because skepticism has made the supernatural safe, even fun. It turns out that while many Americans may think that there are ghosts, they often don't believe that ghosts can harm them.
Yeah. Ghosts are now fun. Whereas in the 19th century, it was so scary that it made it into the daily news. But now they're just kind of fun. Okay, let's finish up. Yuki, do you think you could take the next one?
okay. There is, however, a deep reason, just as spiritualism became a means to fall on to the supernatural claims of religion in the face of science in the 19th century. The supernaturalism of our own time may enable sometimes similar. The God that has emerged in the past 1960s, the Nuwalist Christianity practiced by nearly a quarter of all Americans is vividly supernatural. A Jesus who walks by your side just as Jesus walked with his disciples. Disciples. This assertion that the supernatural is natural helps to make the case for God in a secular age, because it promised people that they will know by experience that God is real.
And we'll talk about renewalist Christianity in just a moment. I'll clarify that for you. Last paragraph here. Perhaps technology plays a role as well. Our world is animated in ways that can seem almost uncanny. Lights that snap on as you approach, cars that fire into life without keys, websites that know what you like to read and suggest more books like those. The internet is not material in the ordinary way. It feels somehow different. Maybe this too stokes our imagination. This suggests there may even be more supernaturalism in the years to come. Happy Halloween! Revivalist Christianity. That's that Christianity that takes place in mega churches out there in the West somewhere. Mega churches with thousands of people. And they have video screens with the preacher, their faces the size of a building, and miracles are performed during the church service, like every time. Someone is cured, someone is healed. There's a lot of music, a lot of singing. So that's what they mean by this revivalist Christianity. It's a particular thing that I think happens mostly in America. Other places too, but Philippines is kind of famous for it as well. And there, Jesus is not some idea. It is something that happens to you very specifically and personally, very real. I got a few questions for you to have a discussion about this, and during the discussion, I want you to go back to all that great vocabulary we talked about here. You can see it on page 4, and you can use as much of it as possible, that and anything you found in the text that was useful. Try to use it actively. Let me go to our discussion. First question for the group. What caused the supernatural to move, quote, from the external objective to the internal subjective world of psychology? What do you think caused that? The article talks about it a bit. I'm curious what you think.
Could you repeat again? Sorry.
Sure, I'm just looking at the very first question on the screen. What do you think caused this shift? What caused the supernatural to move from the external objective to the internal subjective world? So it went from something that was spiritual to something psychological. First, what do you think? I don't know. The article talks about hallucinations, the idea of hallucinations.
I think it was the development of the science.
Science, right?
Yes, because in that time, science was not so developed and it was not that clear. But as science became more accurate, these kind of things had an explanation. So they found that psychological explanation to them. But before it was maybe too confusing, and I mean that thing you mentioned before about the ether and all that. So
Right.
science wasn't clearly standing this is real and this is true and this is not. So maybe that was.
But the article says 42% of Americans believe in ghosts, and there's plenty of science today. That's like that's like almost 200 million people.
Because in America, Christianity practiced in another way. They thought Jesus really exists, like a ghost exists. So
he's real.
Yes. And I think, according to this article, technology, development of technology is another reason to cause the supernatural to move from to real thing. People now can see visually ghost in the photo.
Oh, okay. So it's easier to visualize because of like CGI and all of this stuff. Right. That line about it stokes our imagination. Here's a funny point. If you ever look at those bad TV shows in America about ghosts, like those documentary shows, they always try to use technology to prove that the ghost is real. They never show it because there's nothing to show. But they always use, different kinds of meters and gauges. Oh, look, the temperature dropped here. Oh, if we use the sound recorder, we can see that this is a low frequency thing. Only a ghost could make that sound. So it's funny that if you look at least in the pop culture, technology is a very important part of proving that this stuff is real. It's used.
John, just one thing. For instance, in Spanish we call it cacophony. I don't know if it's the same word in English.
Cacophony is like a lot of noise.
Yes, I mean these are the people who go to supposed haunted houses just to record strange noises. That's what it's called cacophony. That's what they do to prove that ghosts really exist and that house was haunted.
And so you're saying the recording just normal noise.
Well, they report the noise in the house, coming from the house, and they just want to prove that those noises are coming from a ghost that's still in the house. But that thing, I think, the Americans are the only ones who do it. I think.
Of course, because we're the craziest. Of course. You're not going to catch any Canadians doing that. It's just Americans. Not all Americans.
But that's always been a little bit surprising for me. But what do you want to prove with that? That house is haunted? So what?
I think they want to prove that that it's worth getting the funding for the next TV show.
That's it.
I don't know. What were you going to say?
It seems people are interested in that.
Sylvia, you were saying something too, I think.
I think it's an easy way to earn money, and they are funny.
They are. They're hilarious. And then the funny part is that they started making movies that were just like those bad TV shows, like Paranormal, those 3 movies, where it's just nothing happens. Well, I guess there's a little bit of effects here and there, but you're just filming empty rooms, and that's about it. And that's the movie.
There was also a long cartoon, Ghostbuster, in the 80s.
The movies, there was a cartoon and there were cartoons and there's going to be a Ghostbusters 3 coming up soon.
Oh, no, I remember the cartoon series, not the film.
Oh, the film is a classic nowadays. It's a classic. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to skip 2 because we kind of talked about it. How does this aspect of American culture compare to your culture? So, in Italy, ghosts?
Yes, we have ghosts, especially in castle, and it's an easy way to earn money. But we haven't real Halloween. Okay, now, yes, we have Halloween with the pumpkins and everything. But 5 years ago, no, we haven't. We have only Carnival in February. That it's a little bit different because Halloween is more terror and ghost, and Carnival is more mask.
It's more about dressing up and prancing around. What about some other opinions? Ruslan, what about where you live in Ukraine? Is this stuff part of the culture?
I think no, it's not part of our culture because we don't. I think most of people don't believe in ghosts or something else.
Absolutely, just those crazy Americans. But what about supernatural things? There's probably folklore in Ukraine. Maybe people don't believe it's real, but there's probably a lot of folklore, right? You always think about Russian and Ukrainian and Eastern European folklore as being a very rich part of the culture.
Yes, it is.
So are ghosts part of the folklore as well, or is it more about people?
I think it's more about folklore, not people. I know a few people who believe in ghosts and supernatural.
So they're not just Americans. Not just Americans. Okay, we're not the only ones.
I know that Ukraine is really famous for vampire, so maybe you believe in vampire. True?
Do you have vampires out there in the Ukraine? Have you seen any vampires, Ruslan?
What? Can you repeat, please?
I said, Sylvia is saying that vampires are very famous in Ukraine. Have you seen any vampires?
What is vampire?
Vampires are Dracula.
Okay,
the guy with the big teeth. I'll take that as a no.
To understand.
Like Dracula.
I think ghost in Russia is quite different from Europe that of Europeans and Americans. There is a famous story called B. It is a story written by Gogol, famous Russian writer. And in this story, ghost is described very realistic. It looks like a beautiful woman, but it beautiful woman's figure changed to the scary elder woman. So
Kind of like The Shining.
yes. I think Russian horror is very close to related to the folklore and literature.
And so, what happens in the folklore? What makes her change? Does something set her off? Is there like a trigger? So people see a beautiful woman and they want to go after her, and then when they find her, she becomes something else?
Through a encounter with ghost, protagonist of story experience some kind of how to say learning.
A lesson?
Lesson, yes.
Yeah.
Such a kind of thing.
Okay.
Yes.
So different cultures have different ways to experience these things. And Halloween, Sylvia, you already answered question 4 about Halloween. 5 years ago, there was no Halloween. Now there is. Why now? What happened in the last 5 years?
The economy decreased, and so they need more money.
Oh, so they can sell costumes or something.
Yes.
Is that it? Shadow, what about where you live? Is there anything like Halloween where you live?
No, people here don't believe in ghosts, but they believe that there are another creature. Another.
What kind of creature?
It's called jinn.
Ah, jinn, like the tricksters.
I don't know what's the tricksters, but it's.
They play tricks on you. They can change their shape and change their appearance or something. Is that right?
We believe that they're another creature that they live like a human being.
And what's the difference? How are they different than normal human beings?
We can't see them.
But they're invisible.
Yeah. So people used to call them ghosts. I mean, in other countries maybe. So it's like that.
And what do they do exactly?
They live like any creature, but because we're afraid of these things that we can't see, we can't accept that. So
there's more and more jinn in American culture every year. Do you know that? They're in the movies now. So this is kind of this is sort of an Islamic mythology, right? It's sort of somehow related to Islam.
It's part of our religion, and it's written in our holy book. So it's
there you go. Because there's a movie last year. There's a 2013 movie, Jinn, an American movie, and in all of those American TV shows, there's always one episode with a jinn in it, always one, and it's usually portrayed as a kind of someone who plays tricks on you, someone who can change their shape or their appearance, and they're there to kind of deceive you. If I remember right, I think that's what I'm thinking of, and it's jinn. In English, I guess it's kind of J-I-N or something like that, maybe like this.
Yeah, it's jinn. It's an Arabic word, but I don't know in English what they said. But if they said jinn, it's I don't know really. This is the first time I heard of that. I think that people from America or these countries, they thought that jinn is ghost. It's the same. but it's not same. I believe that dead people can't back to life because I mean those jinn, it's another creature. It's not just souls or dead people or these things.
All right, so it's different from us right from the beginning. It's a different thing entirely.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very good. I'd like to know more. We got to do a gin class.
Okay.
Last question before we run out of time here. We're kind of over time, but I'll give you a few more minutes. Question number 7. I'm just curious what you think. Do you think it's appropriate to celebrate something like Halloween? What do you think? Araceli, what do you think about this? Halloween is not really a Spanish thing, but like Sylvia was saying, it's starting to appear in European culture because of the American influence. Do you think it's appropriate to celebrate it anywhere?
Well, it's okay. For me, it's okay. I think it's like a funny thing. It's really we have some different celebration. Tomorrow we have the first day of November. It's the day we go to the cemetery and remember the dead loved ones from our families.
Right.
But we, I think people forgets about that. But in our tradition, there are also creepy stories about the night before the 1st of November, and we have many famous writers written this kind of stories. The so it's in the romantic in the 19th century, especially there was a lot of this. So I think we had that more or less that tradition too about the living, the dead coming alive and all that. But yes, people here sometimes they reject Halloween because they say it comes from the US.
Well,
But I think it's not that bad.
It's true.
Fun. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just you change it a little bit, but it's almost the same thing we had here before. And also, I have heard that Christian people here they don't like it because they think it's like disrespectful with the dead. But I think
It's
Halloween is not
disrespectful?
serious. For me, it's not because it's not a serious thing.
Right.
Well, you may think if you have someone buried in the cemetery, you will go tomorrow and take flowers, remember that person. Maybe you won't like someone to pretend they are walking alive and to go trick or treat, but I think it's different. I think sometimes it's Halloween is very funny. It's not serious at all, and I don't think it's disrespectful, but some people do.
And Carmen, you're in the same country, so what do you think? Do you remember that tradition, the day before All Saints' Day?
I'm not a very religious person, so.
Well, not you specifically, but I'm saying, Araceli's saying that there's something like Halloween in Spanish culture, like the day before November 1st, All Saints' Day. By the way, I didn't know that All Saints' Day was supposed to be the day you go and remember loved
That's
ones.
what we
I
do
didn't know.
instead. Yeah, go to visit them to the cemetery. Those who want to go, of course.
Right.
Now, for me, Halloween is just. I mean, if you got little kids, for them it's like a party. They dress up in funny disguises and that sort of thing. But for me, it's not good. It's not bad. I mean, I'm not very interested in that.
Has anyone been to Mexico for the Day of the Dead?
No.
Out of curiosity.
In fact, never been to Mexico before.
Anyone here been to Mexico?
No.
No? No one? Okay. Have you seen the Day of the Dead celebrations? No?
No, but I think they have a cemetery with a shop inside.
Uh-huh.
It's real.
I'll see if I could just call up a quick picture. Then we're probably going to have to stop. Day of the Dead. Because ever since I was a kid, I always thought this was one of the more amazing things. because we get a bit of this in New York, because like half of Mexico lives in New York. So we get a bit of this, especially in the places where I used to live. Let me show you just a quick picture of the art. You've probably seen this before, but I'll show it anyway. 1 second. Take a look at this. See these?
Yeah.
Can everyone see them?
Yeah.
And here's someone, I mean, they actually, this is a little bit more commercial, but it's based on what people actually do in the celebration. So dressing themselves up and having effigies as well. I've never been to Mexico, so I haven't seen it firsthand. But I remember in Brooklyn, when I was living there, especially when I first came, this stuff was kind of in the streets, which was really kind of amazing to see. And that's the same thing, I think, that you were saying about Spanish culture, this tradition that the day before you go and remember the dead, you go to the cemetery, you've got this folkloric thing happening the day before, the 31st, even though it's not Halloween. Then I guess we Americans commercialized it, because that's what we do, and then you've got Halloween today. So there you go. Well, we're a bit over time. We better stop, or we'll be here all day. So, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
You can download that download the document, and if you like, on the last page, I gave you a few tools for your notes, if you want. You'll notice on the last 2 pages, I gave you 3 kinds of charts. The first is for guessing the meaning of words. The second is for finding word patterns, collocations. And the third is, on the next page, word formation, looking at the way words change. So if you're taking notes, vocabulary notes, as you do these classes, you could add these to your notes, reread the article, and find a few examples for all 3 of the charts. And then you can share them with me, and I'll correct them for you or give you feedback if you want. So that's a self-study thing that anyone can do. Copy and paste the chart.
If we will do as you said, you can get we can get sweets from you.
Absolutely.
Trick and treat.
You'll get treats, not tricks.
Yeah.
I will email you a candy bar somehow. I'll do my
trick and treat. Give me a sweet.
And I had a way to. I was going to wear a Halloween mask, but I don't think I know there's a way to do it, but.
Yes, you got some effects. The thing is,
I don't know where it is. I don't know. I'm going to figure it out, and later today I'll do it.
But you can do it.
Later today. I'll be back later today.
Okay, have a nice day all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween.
Bye.
Happy Halloween. Bye-bye.
See you.
See you.
Bye-bye. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.